Well, for more analysis on this, on both Joe Biden's meeting with Rishi Sunak and a look ahead at that NATO summit, we're going to cross now to Denis MacShane, the former British Minister of European Affairs. Hello, sir. Thank you very much for joining us here on France 24 today.
Great pleasure. I'm speaking to you from Athens, where I should think our Greek friends might have a line or two on Mr. Erdogan joining the European Union, but that's probably not going to be raised at Vilnius. It's a very interesting development. I think Mr. Erdogan is smelling the fact that President Putin is not looking good, and as your commentator said, Erdogan is a shrewd politician, and he's going to stop backing a loser, and that's, I think, some of the smoke signals we're seeing today.
Very glad to have your take on that, sir, because I was going to ask you about it. Well, maybe if we have time, turn back to it later, but I do want to start with the meeting between Rishi Sunak and Joe Biden. It almost felt like a formality. It didn't last very long. Joe Biden is, of course, already heading to meet with the king. What does that suggest about the state of their relationship, if anything?
There's not much of a relationship. I mean, Rishi Sunak is one of the most polite people on God's earth, and so he's not pompous and stupid like Boris Johnson was. He's not a serial liar like Boris Johnson. So he'll get on fine. He's a Silicon Valley billionaire, Goldman Sachs banker. He understands America. But I think what is interesting is the importance that Mr. Biden is making in going to see the king. You're going to see two heads of state, both, let's say, no longer young men, no longer in the first flush of youth, in their late 70s into 80, and the press in England, the right-wing press, the anti-European press, the Tory press, keep denouncing President Biden as senile, always falling over. You know, he should be in an old person's home. And here he is saying, hey, you said the same stuff about Ronald Reagan. I'm meeting your king, who isn't a young man. He's about my age. And we two heads of state, you know something? We're going to be hanging around for a bit longer than you guys realize.
Well, Joe Biden, you did say that Rishi Sunak is a polite prime minister compared to Boris Johnson, but there are some major disagreements between his government and Joe Biden, notably on those cluster munitions and on Ukraine's possible path to NATO membership. How important do you think these disagreements are?
I would relativize them as somebody who did a lot of negotiating. I also was responsible as Britain's Europe minister for starting the talks, or getting Britain to support starting the talks with President Erdogan at the time. I could tell you lots of anecdotes about that, but okay, leave that for later. Right now, yes, Britain does not support the use of cluster weapons. It's signed an international treaty against them with 120 other countries. The United States never signed that treaty, so technically it is legally in the clear. And the real problem is that the Ukrainians are asking for these weapons. The Russians have been using them non-stop since almost day one of Putin's invasion of Europe, of Ukraine. And the Europeans and the United States have not provided sufficient arms, that's to say shells, bullets, missiles, bombs, all the stuff you use in warfare. You'd think by now, 18 months into the war, we could have got a few more factories going. You know, they're very profitable. The companies who make them make lots of money. But we've just been so poorly led across the field, in my view, in providing Ukraine with giving Ukraine what it takes. As Churchill said to Roosevelt, give us the tools and we will do the job. We'll finish the job. Zelensky's been saying to Biden and Sunak and Macron and Scholz, give me the tools, and believe me, my boys can see this through. And unfortunately, we haven't. And so now, in desperation, Biden is sending them the cluster bombs.
Sir, I do kind of want to follow. This is unfortunately the last question we'll be able to get through together. But I do want to follow up on a little bit of what you said there. You said that these are the kind of things that we need in war. That the West has been kind of slow to give Ukraine all of what it needs. But does the fact that 120 nations have banned them, does that not matter? Does it not take away a little bit from the West's credibility when it comes to human rights and kind of just warfare?
Let me say something very unpleasant. But when you engage the kind of all-out war, killing children, killing innocent people, killing novelists that Putin has started, then some of the finer niceties of human rights aren't obeyed. Yes, of course, it would be better if cluster bombs were not used, but they were used by Putin to kill innocent Ukrainians, and we have not provided sufficient weapons. So this people don't understand, I think, at times, just how god-awful war is. It's not a set of newspaper articles. These are men and women shedding their blood to defend Europe's freedom. We, in my view, should be sending them far more of necessary wherewithal to achieve that aim, and say quietly to Mr. Putin, hey, forget about Biden and King Charles. Maybe you should think about retirement, old boy.
Denis MacShane, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of disagreements about that precisely at this NATO summit on Tuesday. France 24, of course, will be keeping an eye on that. In the meantime, thank you very much, Denis MacShane, the former British Minister of European Affairs, for joining us today.